You guys know what I'm going to say, right? At this point, fire everybody, right? And I say this every time, but we can't keep doing this. The Canucks lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-1. And it was a fairly close 4-1. It wasn't the worst 4-1 you've ever seen, but you knew the second that Pittsburgh scored their first goal, the Canucks weren't going to get back in it. They didn't have much pressure. They didn't have many high danger chances. It was a game that the Canucks just looked like they weren't there to play. Sure, shots were close, all that stuff, but at the end of the day, this wasn't a game the Canucks were to win, as they just never showed that fight throughout the game. As always, we're going to break down the game. We're going to go over my thoughts, your thoughts, all of the above. You guys know the deal at this point. So it's Canucks, Penguins, Demco, Jari in net. We go to the first period. An early penalty from Jason Dickinson gives the league worst Pittsburgh power play a chance against the league worst Vancouver penalty kill. The Canucks win this battle. Absolutely crazy. The Canucks winning a penalty kill battle. But the Canucks kill off the first penalty of the night, and they kill off the second one of the night. Horvat takes a penalty a few minutes later for a slash. The Penguins power play looked atrocious on this one. No shots on that second penalty. Burrows then takes a hooking penalty with 8 seconds to go, and that's really all that happens in the first period, other than the fact that Pittsburgh was all over the Canucks if you exclude the time they were on the power play. The Penguins outshoot the Canucks 16-9 in the first period, with Thatcher Demko being absolutely fantastic. I think the most shots the Canucks have faced in a period this year is 17, so almost their worst period when it comes to shots allowed in a period. By the way, the second they allowed 15, but we'll get to that. But that Kyle Burrows penalty did carry over into the second period that he took with 8 seconds left. Kind of a dumb hook that didn't need to happen. And the Penguins score on that ensuing power play. Once again, the Canucks allow the first goal of the game. I think it's like all but 3 or 4 times. And we're how many games into the season? Like 19, 20 games in. It just doesn't make any sense. They allow the first goal of the game again. They allow a power play goal again, and it's 1-0 Penguins, and they strike again about 7 minutes later. This is a terrible turnover by Elias Pettersson, followed by an incredibly egregious giveaway by Quinn Hughes. Pettersson gives the puck up, ends up in the Canucks zone. Quinn Hughes ends up with the puck on the left-hand side wall, and he just fires it like across the crease, like to the far boards where there's absolutely no one there. Evan Rodriguez just steps up, picks up the puck, says thank you, walks in. Tyler Myers doesn't really pressure him, and he just shoots the puck past Demko. And it's 2-0, just like that, with 12 and a half minutes to play in the second period. We have a Lamico penalty taking a high stick with 7.5 minutes to go. Another not great power play for the Penguins, but this is the Canucks' 4th penalty of the game, while the Penguins hadn't taken a single one at this point. So a bit of a lack of discipline here. Most of the penalties were just not necessary that the Canucks took tonight, but either way. Then in the last few minutes of the third period, and you thought the second goal was pretty egregious. This one wasn't great. Canucks moving on the attack. Tucker Pullman, end of a shift, mind you, joins in on the rush, which is fine. But if you join in on the rush, keep in mind a defenseman joining in, you have 3 forwards and a defenseman up, leaving 1 defenseman left. You either get the puck deep or someone covers for you. You at least have to get into the zone, right? You got to get past you got to get past the top of the faceoff circle. But he comes in and he leaves this drop pass for Niels Höglander that he kind of hooks. Instead of dropping it straight back, he throws it back on an angle so it goes towards the boards. And basically, instead of playing it to Höglander's stick, it's now a 50-50 that Höglander and a Penguins defender are both going for the puck at the same time. And it's, it's anyone's guess as to who comes out of that battle with the puck. It gets played ahead, and it's 3-on-1 the other way for the Penguins. It ends up on Zach Aston-Reese's stick, and he beats Demko to make it 3-0. So shots in the second period were 16-15 for the Canucks. But again, keep in mind, sure, 16 shots is great, but the Canucks also allowed 15 shots in this period and allowed 3 goals. The high danger chances that they allowed, right? That Rodriguez goal, it was a terrible giveaway, and then Rodriguez was allowed to just walk in up next to Demko and get as close as he wanted and get to exactly where he wanted to shoot from. This 3-on-1 the other way, that it was basically uncontested, right? Like just the high danger chances that the Canucks were allowing, even if you might look at the shot counter in this game and say, oh, it was 37-37 by the end of it. That's pretty even. It's about context in that scenario, right? The raw numbers don't tell the whole story there. So we go to the third period. And then literally less than a minute into the third period, the Canucks have allowed a 2-on-1 odd man rush the other way. It's Sidney Crosby coming in with somebody. I don't know who he was with. And Crosby is able to get a good shot off that hits the far post. We're talking a minute into a third period where the Canucks are down by 3 goals after having 2 egregious goals against, and they're allowing odd man rushes right away. Nothing has happened. Nothing changes over the intermission. They don't try to tighten up at all. They say, all right, let's send 4 guys in deep and then allow odd man rushes the other way. So luckily that one hits the post. Canucks get their first power play of the night. Kind of a boarding call. It wasn't a huge call. It wasn't like a big board, but Dumoulin takes a penalty for putting Mott into the boards. So the Canucks go into this power play. Early on this power play, we have Teddy Bluger taking the puck away from Connor Garland, who's the last man back in his own zone, and he just loses control of the puck. He goes in on Demko and tight. He gets stopped. A great save by Demko there. But over the course of this entire power play, I was counting in my head, unless I missed something in the first 10 seconds of the power play, I think the Canucks had a grand total of about 5 or 6 seconds of time in the offensive zone where they had puck control. In the entire 2-minute power play where they have more guys on the ice than the other team, they had puck control for about 5 or 6 seconds in the Pittsburgh zone. In a game that they're down by 3, yada, yada, yada. You know the whole deal. It's egregious, and it's just bad. So obviously this power play does nothing. 0 shots on goal. About 10 minutes to go in the third period, the Canucks are then getting so lazy that the puck ends up getting played back into the Canucks zone. This is something that happens 20 times a game where the puck comes back into the zone. The defender comes around, picks it up. Some people are changing, and then they try a breakout pass. You've seen it before. I don't know exactly who it was. I wasn't watching the numbers, but everyone comes back into the Canucks zone so slowly and so nonchalantly, like, oh yeah, the puck's there. We're just going to skate over to it and pick it up, and we're all good. Everything's fine. And then Brian Rush is like, oh, no one's going to go get this. I'll go get it. So Brian Rush skates in, wins the puck battle, plays it across to Crosby, who fires it across to Gensel. And Thatcher Demko absolutely robs Jake Gensel here, sprawling to his right, just gets enough of it with the right pad. Too bad saves like this don't matter at this point, right? Demko could have allowed 8 goals this game. It wouldn't have mattered. The Canucks weren't going to win it if they allowed more than 2, which is what happened. So excellent save from Demko there. The Canucks do finally get one back, about 5 minutes to play. This is a good individual effort from Bo Horvat. And Bo Horvat, who had gone, I think, 6 or 7 games without a point. I think it might have been 7 coming into this game without a point. Lots of, heat getting turned up on him, right? Heat getting on the general manager, the coach, the captain. If the captain's not performing well, he's going to take some bullets as well, some heat. And so he was getting a lot of flack. But he goes and he scores the only Canucks goal this game. And it wasn't like, oh, he had a shot that went through. It was, he put his head down. He worked his way down the left wing, beat 2 guys, drove to the middle of the ice, went on the backhand, was able to beat the goaltender, goes far post and in over the shoulder of Jari to make it 3-1. So at least some sort of a bright spot here. Horvat getting one back, his 6th of the season, and Schenn getting the assist on that one. So the Canucks pull the goalie with 3 minutes to go, and Brock McGinn scores with 60 seconds to go in this game. And the other Pettersson getting an assist in this one on that empty net goal. So it's 4-1. That's the final score. Let's get into sort of overall thoughts, pluses, minuses. You guys know the deal. Pluses. Let's start with pluses. Let's get a little bit of a high note. Bo Horvat scored, and that is, obviously I just sort of went into that, but that's big. Good that at least someone is, doing something. Horvat played 18 minutes tonight. He had 4 shots on goal, most on the team, tied for most on the team. And I thought he had a fine night today, but going out there and showing at least a little bit of heart in a game that you're not going to win. You're down 3 goals with 5 minutes to go, but to still go out there and drive to the net and try to get a goal, at least he tried, right? Thatcher Demko is an obvious plus. He continues to be an absolute stud for this team. Again, you see, he allowed 3 goals against, but I mean, so many high danger chances. I do wonder what the, again, I think I do this every game, but I want to look at sort of the expected goals. 3.29 for Pittsburgh, and they scored 3 if you don't include the empty netter. So again, though, I think they could have had more. High danger chances for 15 for Pittsburgh, 7 for the Canucks. So like I said, you look at sort of the shots being 37-37, but high danger chances or high danger, chances 15-7 in favor of Pittsburgh tonight. And it tells the story of the game, right? So Demko's a big one. The third plus is maybe something happens, but again, I mean, how many times do we have to say this, right? How many times do we have to say, a week and a half ago, it was, all right, things are going bad. The road trip went really bad. We're going to see how things go on this homestand, and then we're going to base our decision off that. And the homestand, they lose 2 of the 3 games, but they were all kind of close. Okay, we're going to wait to see what happens on this road trip coming up. And it's like, hey, well, they get just outplayed by the Penguins. Oh, but the shots were close. And like, what is it going to take? What is it going to take for something to change? Because clearly this isn't working. The Canucks have now won 6 out of the first, is it 20 games of the season? Have they played 20 games now? And they have 6 wins. 6 wins in 20 games. That's not good enough. It's actually just terrible. And it's amazing that nothing has changed yet. We're a quarter of the way through the season officially. The Canucks have, what do they have? 14 points. So they're on pace for, again, right around 60 points this season. It's absolutely atrocious. So let's go to the minuses in this one. Very negative pluses today. Minuses. The pain. It's just pain. The pain of knowing what was coming for that entire game and having to sit through it and just knowing like, all right, well, maybe there's like a 15-20% chance they're able to win, but I'm not expecting much. And it's just tiring at this point. It's tiring sort of doing the same old thing, sitting in front of my TV, turning on the game, not having that enthusiasm of like, all right, let's see if the boys can do it tonight. It's like, all right, well, here we go. Let's get the notes ready and get ready for another disappointing effort from the team. And that's what it was. Another minus, the Canucks have lost 6 of their last 7 now. I think they were on a 5. They had a 5-game losing streak. Then they beat the Jets and they lost the game after that. I think that's right. Were they on a 5-game losing streak? Is that real? Man, that Dallas game is so long ago. That Dallas game that they won 6-3 was 2.5 weeks ago at this point. But yeah, they've lost 6 of the last 7. Actually, no, it's 7 of the last 8. Yeah, because there's the Blackhawks game. I forgot about the Blackhawks game. Yeah, the Canucks have lost 7 of their last 8 games, with their only win coming against Winnipeg, which is bad. Another minus is that Demko's saves don't matter. And again, I sort of talked about this when I talked about his save on Gensel, but it's disheartening, right? And it's got to be disheartening for Demko because he's going out there, he's putting on a performance of a lifetime. It's not like he's in a contract here. He's locked up for 5 years. And he's going out there and he's the best player on the ice consistently for the Canucks. I saw a tweet. I don't remember who it was from, but someone tweeted out that Demko was the Canucks' best power play player tonight, which is literally true because the Canucks had 1 power play. They spent 5 seconds with control in the offensive zone, and Demko was forced to make a really good save on Bluger during that power play. Pittsburgh had more shots than the Canucks did during the Canucks' only power play tonight, which it's absurd. The next minus is the Canucks went something like 140 something minutes without a goal in this game. I think the math was that they were going to hit around like 150 something minutes if it went the entire game, if they got shut out again. But they did score with about 5 minutes left. So I don't know the exact number, but 140 something minutes with no goals. And the biggest minus, the Canucks just looked lifeless. That's all it was, right? They had, they had some shots on net and all this other stuff, but they generally just looked lifeless. They did look like there wasn't just that urgency. There was just like a lack of care. It's a team that looks like they have lost interest. And if you're trying to keep a fan base around, if you want to keep a fan base interested, but you can't keep your players interested, you're going to have a tough time. So all around a rough game. There's one plus that I didn't mention, although it's also kind of a minus, but my one plus for this game is that it's only 7:00, right? Especially if you're on the West, at least if you're on the West Coast right now, we got the whole night ahead of us. Canucks lost. All right, forget about it. Let's go enjoy the rest of our night. But before you do that, let's take your questions, your comments, as we always do every single show. We're going to try to keep this one under 30 minutes tonight because we had some comments before the show started. You guys are able to join the show before it starts and leave comments in there. And that's what Marcus did, saying, here at the second intermission, and I don't want to watch another minute. Well, you didn't miss much. It was a pretty slow period, not too much going on. Shots were 12-6 for the Canucks in the third. Pittsburgh was just sort of locking things down in their own zone. And not much happened. We had a Horvat goal that was nice. McGinn goal in the empty netter. Niels Hoaglander saying, God help us, please just fire Green and Benning. I keep feeling like, it's like, oh, okay, now it can happen. Now it can happen. But I mean, how long are we going to go down this road before it actually does? Mark is saying he has tickets to the Canucks and Habs game in a few days, but he wants to sell them now. That's on the road, hey? And the Habs are playing bad too. I was going to say you might be able to get a decent chunk of change for them being the Habs, but I know that no one's really wanting to see them right now either because they're 5-14-2. That could be, you know what? You could at least be going to a Canucks win, at least. Cam saying Besser looks so bad. What happened to our boy? I don't know. I have so much trouble diagnosing, exactly what's wrong with a player, of course. But yeah, he hasn't been great. What was his stat line tonight? 3 shots, -2. That's kind of it. 2 hits. Meh. Let's see what else we got here. Sonny's saying this was not really a close 4-1. Demco stole at least 3 goals from the Penguins. Yeah, and again, if you look at the shots and you'd say, oh, the Canucks probably got unlucky, right? If you didn't watch this game and you just go and look at the stats, you're like, oh, shots were 37-37. Penguins have more power plays. Yeah, it was probably a pretty close game, but if you didn't watch the game, there's the amount of pressure Pittsburgh was able to have, especially in tight odd man rushes all day long. Bad giveaways, great chances, and a lot of that is score effects, right? The Canucks outshot the Penguins 12-6 in the third period because the Penguins were just playing shutdown D because they didn't need to score any more goals. They're up 3-0. So if shots were like 12-12 in the third period and Pittsburgh was actually pressing, then they would have had like 43 shots and we would have been like, wow, that's way too many shots. So yeah, the shots don't tell the whole story there. It was just a rough performance for the Canucks. Sonny's saying everything I see on the ice right now is coaching. You can't convince me our offense is this bad. Has to be coaching. Yeah. And I see a lot of people, and I think I've said this before, but I see a lot of people saying, well, at what point do you blame the players? And it's like, yeah, it is the players' fault that the players don't perform. But I mean, these are players who have performed before. So there's like, you got to do something, right? And sure, maybe the players need to get together and actually try harder and perform better. But the coach's job is to get the best out of his players. Right now, the best is not coming out of these players, and it's not even close. So that's the easiest change to make. Not some crazy trade potentially. If you want to allow this GM to make more trades while he's got one foot out the door, I don't like that idea. We talked a lot more about trade potential on Monday on Canucks After Dark, so you can go listen to that if you want to, wherever you get your podcast or on the Canucks After Dark YouTube channel linked down below. Mark is saying, surprised Demko hasn't asked for a trade yet. Seriously, I feel so bad for him. Yeah, he's young at least. Maybe he loves the game. Maybe he's in it because he loves facing all those tough shots. I don't know. It is a really tough situation for Thatcher Demko. But Canucks have him under contract for 5 years at least. Deeks Rips saying, wow, the effort on this team is brutal. You can't play for 5 to 10 minutes a game and expect to win in any league. I wholeheartedly agree. Terry saying, keep JT Miller. Canucks are trying to fix things that aren't broken. Miller is literally the only player to stand out tonight, followed by Demco. Yeah, this is a tricky topic, and I didn't make a video about sort of the whole trade rumor, and maybe I should, and maybe just about trading JT Miller as a whole. I made a video like this last year about Adam Gaudette. Actually, I said, should the Canucks trade Adam Gaudette? Sure enough, 2 weeks later, he got traded. And I think my answer was yes. So there you go. And for JT Miller, there's really easy arguments both ways, right? You can say, well, he's one of the best players on the team. He's literally coming, at least Monday when I looked at the stats, he was tied for 10th in NHL scoring. So part of that argument is he's the only player showing up and actually performing. Even games where he has off nights, he still puts points up. It's then easy to argue, well, that means his value is higher than ever right now. and it's probably only going to go down from here. And with a year left at a cheap contract, his value is really high. So if you're not going to make the playoffs this year, and who knows about next year at this point, the way this team's going, don't you want to try to maximize value for him now? It's a tricky situation. I might make a video more about it. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in the next. I always say I'm going to do a video and then I never do because I'm busy. But maybe like Saturday, maybe Saturday I'll put some effort in and throw some ideas together for that. Quattrob saying this team needs to change in something. I hate the culture of this team, all these moral victories, giving the other team credit and patting themselves on the back after losses. I don't think there's a lot of back patting right now after losses. They might not be showing it as much, but I bet in the locker room, I bet they're mad. I bet they're not happy. They're like, you know what? Hey, we gave it a good effort, boys. We got pucks in deep. Shots were even. We gave it a good go. No, they're probably in there and they're probably mad, and for good reason. But yes, I agree. Something needs to change. And, I don't think trading away a single player is enough change to be made. But you can't just do nothing, right? This is an organization that, 10 to 20, like 8 to 12 years ago, basically before Jim Benning and sort of the Gillis Nonis sort of thing. Aquilini was accused of firing people too quickly, right? This is an organization that, you have one bad year, you're gone, right? But now that's been how many bad years and nothing's happening, right? What sort of message does that send? It's sending a message to this management group. It's sending a message around the NHL, and it's sending a message to the fans that this is fine. It's sending a message that this is good enough, right? If this isn't enough to make a change happen, that tells the fan base that, this is fine. This is just how it is. Sorry. And that's how people get apathetic. That's how people just stop caring about this team. Why would you bother watching, what's going to, on Friday night, Canucks play Columbus at 4 p.m. Why are you going to watch that game? Right? What is enough? Like, is there enough in that game for you to be like, all right, I am going to take 2.5 hours out of my Friday, out of my weekend is starting, done the work week. I'm going to sit down and watch the Canucks game. What is in it for you at this point? Right? And I mean, the less people that watch the Canucks again, the less people that watch me. So this is sort of a negative loop, but like, there's just nothing really in it at this point because there's nothing to look forward to because they're showing you that this is good enough. Sure, there are rumors flying around that maybe something's going to change, but it doesn't feel imminent. It doesn't feel like they're a big loss away from the cord getting ripped out because this was a pretty bad loss, and I highly doubt we get any news tomorrow on a coach getting fired or a GM getting fired. So what's in it for us, right? What is the point of us, spending our time, our money, and our passion on this team? But that's just me. MK saying, I'm just happy Podkolzin is looking good. All right, there's a positive. Vasily Podkolzin always plays his heart out. He's up to 16.5 minutes he played tonight, which was, probably like 7th on the team. He started the game with Garland and Pettersson. Elias Pettersson basically got benched at some point in this game, right? Elias Pettersson played under 13 minutes tonight. I bet he hasn't played under 13 minutes in a game that he hasn't left from injury in a long, long time. And for good reason. He didn't look great. They pulled Podkolzin off of that line. Pettersson ended up playing. I remember he played a shift with Chason and Lamico. There's an indictment for you. But Vasily Podkolzin looked good. At least he was flying. He was trying things. He was trying to be a spark for the team. And for a young, is he 19? He's 20 now. For a young 20-year-old to go out and put out that much effort, even in a game where, it's easy to be sort of down on your luck, like a lot of this team seems like they're playing. But he went out there and he gave it his all, as he always does. Terry saying, all I wanted for Christmas was a goal, and I got it. Can you wish for, can your Christmas wishes just get those standards up a little? Yes, the goal was nice. Bo Horvat, a nice goal. But it was meaningless, and the team still lost, and it wasn't a great game. So if you can start asking for If you can start asking for some wins for Christmas or some change for Christmas, that would be excellent. But I'm glad they got at least. I'm glad they didn't get shut out at the very least. Billy asking about the Islanders special teams. I haven't watched the Islanders play at all this year, so I'm not able to help you there. JJ saying to keep Demko, Miller, Garland, Horvat, Podkolzin, Höglander, Hughes, Ekman, Larson, and Mott. Get rid of everyone else, including Green and Benning. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to get rid of Ekman Larson. I like everyone else on that list. The fact that you're getting rid of Pettersson and Besser is a little rough in my mind. I know there's rumors around Besser, but they're not trading Pettersson. And Pettersson's had, 20 bad games now in his career? Again, I don't think you write him off. I don't think you should be selling him at his lowest potential value, which is right now, when he has every possibility of even if it takes 2 years from now for him to get back to himself, right? And he's an 80-point player then. You're not going to get that value for him now. And I know there's a little bit of a thought around, if you aren't going to make the playoffs, Tyler Mott might be a good rental piece and get like a second or third round pick for him. But I think there's a lot of change that is ready to happen. Let's see here. Quattrob saying the worst thing for us losing is that players won't want to stay and players won't come to play for the Canucks. Who would want to come here to ruin their careers and join a losing culture? Yeah. For all of the, I mean, for those of you who remember the first 4 to 5 years of Benning's tenure, he always said, well, the reason we're not doing a full stripped down rebuild is because we don't want to create a losing culture in the locker room, right? We want there to at least be some wins and something for these guys to look forward to. Well, how'd that go? Right? I mean, this is a losing culture. This is a losing hockey team. They've won 6 out of their 20 games so far this season. Last year was the exact same story. There's no uptrend. This team has been flatlined for the past 6 years, other than that run through the bubble. Okay, one good run. That it looks like they were going to fall out of the playoffs potentially if the season didn't get cut short when it did. Yeah, I wouldn't want to come play in Vancouver at this point, right? Could you imagine you get an offer from Vancouver or you get an offer from somewhere like Carolina, or it's, any other team, right? Let's say you get an offer from Florida, the way Florida's playing right now, or Tampa Bay or Boston, or, other teams that look like they have some more upswing, like the Rangers, even though they've been off to a great start this year, but they're a really young team. Yeah. What would entice you other than having family here or loving the city? Is that enough to get people to come here at a discount? It's not. Kai saying, I'm convinced the Canucks system or coaching staff don't put their players in the right position to succeed. And he's mentioning McEwen and his goal last night. To be fair, Zach McEwen has not been good for Philadelphia this year. He had a great goal last night. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, we can look back at Brandon Sutter's goals, that hat trick against Ottawa that he had, and that doesn't define who Brandon Sutter is as a player. McEwen is last on the Flyers in analytically and expected goals while he's on the ice. He's 37%, which is absolutely atrocious. But there are other examples of that, right? You look at Nate Schmidt, who was really good in Vegas, terrible here, really good in Winnipeg. And I mean, Tyler Myers is being put in this very defensive position when that's never been a role that he's excelled at, right? He's excelled at being a guy who takes 60% offensive zone starts. So yeah, I think there's definitely some validity there. MK saying, Park, can you talk about the criteria on how to judge if a coach is doing a good job? I've always said that I've struggled with this, and I've never tried to hide it and sort of lie my way out of it. It is hard to tell if a coach is doing a good job. And, but a lot of it, one good criteria in my mind is, how does the roster look on paper? How do you expect them to perform? And are they doing that? Right. And we are seeing so many of the Canucks top players that just aren't performing at the level they should be. And in my mind, I don't know how else to explain it. Is it 100% certain that it's Travis Green's fault that the players aren't playing up to their standard? No. But is it worth trying to change the coach? Absolutely. And that's sort of my criteria. Debut saying, doesn't feel like ownership and management have the Stanley Cup as their aim. Why keep people around who are proven to be average at best, let alone bring us a cup? Yeah, I mean, from the top, right? The whole rebuild on the fly notion, and the whole idea around it wasn't one that usually leads to a Stanley Cup. It usually leads to a middling playoff team, which they didn't even pull off here. So yeah, I agree. Katie saying, sadness is my only feeling. I concur. A little bit of anger too, I will say. We'll take a couple more here, and then we're going to wrap up. Let's see here. Marcus saying pluses were Demco, Horvat, Shen, Demco. Yeah, Demco deserves all of those. Nicholas saying, I'm actually at a loss for how Benning still has a job. I agree. If I was put on a project and said, hey, we're going to give you 8 years to make this project succeed, I better make it work, right? To be given the keys to a near $1 billion company as the general manager of an organization worth $750 million US dollars, whatever it is, and to consistently underachieve, to consistently ice a team that is in the bottom 10 in the NHL. I wouldn't have my job if I did this bad, right? Especially if it was costing this much money. So yeah, I fully agree. Quadrop saying that it was almost 10 minutes into the third before the Canucks got their first shot in the period. That's usually something I notice, and I didn't notice it today. But I noticed it in the last game that the Canucks had in the third period. They had a 7.5 minute and a 9.5 minute stretch in the third period down a goal where they didn't get shots on net. And if that happened again tonight, it doesn't surprise me. Sam saying, at this point, I don't see us winning against either Columbus on Friday or Boston on Sunday. No, I think I would put good money on them losing both. I think it's greater than 50% chance that they lose both of them. Yeah, I mean, this is a road trip that coming into it, if they wanted any shot of succeeding, they had to go 4-1, right? 3-2 on a 5-game road trip. When you're this far behind already, you don't make up any ground, right? You just start running out of time. You lose 5 games off the schedule and you make no upward progress in the standings. So they basically had to go maybe 3-1-1, but probably 4-1 for this to be at least a useful road trip in negating some of the early season damage, right? Well, a loss today and a pretty convincing one now means they basically have to win the next 4 to at least make it somewhat interesting. They're going against Boston, who is right now 4th in their division, which doesn't sound great until you realize, well, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 10-6 on the season. Then they have Columbus, who is 5th in their division, but they're still 11-6, also 7-3 in their last 10. So they're going up against 2 really good teams in Boston and Columbus, 2 teams that are at least better than this one. And then they get Ottawa and Montreal. And I mean, would you put money on them winning both of those? I mean, I think they should win one. I think they should win both, but I'm not going to bet on it. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 1-1 against Montreal and Ottawa. I wouldn't even be that surprised if they go 0-2 at this point. So yeah, it's, I don't really have anything else to say there. We're going to grab a couple more. Sorry if I'm skipping your questions. I just don't want to be on here for 45 minutes, being mad about this team. Is there anything else that I want to pull up here? Deke saying they should have kept Trevor Linden around. I mean, yeah, we know now that Trevor Linden was right, if that helps at all. Jog Paul with sort of the real question here. Who would you rather see go? If one had to go, would it be Jim or Travis? Jim Benning. And that's just for long-term success of the franchise. Because I think if you fire Jim Benning, a new GM probably lets go of Travis Green anyways. So yeah, I'd rather see Jim go. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Travis Green first. And the last question I'm going to take is sort of 2 here. Jake Kong and Marjorie both sort of asking the same question. Is the dressing room broken? Is there tension between players? Yeah, everything's broken at this point, to be honest. I don't know if there is tension between players. We've heard people say that, oh no, everyone's sort of like, everyone likes each other. They're just not playing well. And I feel like there has to be something at this point. Fangirl saying, I missed the members only message. Thank you for letting me know. It doesn't show up in my, my special chat here that I use to put things on the screen. But thank you for renewing for 5 months. I do appreciate it. If you guys are interested in the memberships, you can click that join button down below. You get some extra perks. Shout out to our backstage members, Shannon, Terry, Kurt, Lucas, and Adam. Really appreciate you all. And thanks Fangirl for renewing today. I hope you guys have a good, rest of your, was it Wednesday? If any of you are in the States, have a good Thanksgiving. And other than that, I guess I'll be back here on Friday against Columbus if you guys aren't too apathetic at that point to watch the Canucks play. Have a good one, and I will see you in a couple days.